Hey guys, by now I'm sure you all heard about the beef between Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Vin Diesel on the set of the Fast and Furious franchise. In today's video, I'm going to do a quick recap just to catch everyone up to speed, and then I'll do a breakdown on each man and talk about how I think the fight might have played out had the two action stars came to blows, essentially answering the question, who would win in a fight between Vin Diesel and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, so stay tuned. The public first caught wind of this beef back on August 8th, 2016 in a now deleted Instagram post from The Rock. The Rock hashtagged the post, "Zero Tolerance for Candy Asses." Dwayne Johnson wrote when referring to male co-stars, "Some conduct themselves as stand-up men and true professionals, while others don't. The ones that don't are too chicken to do anything about it anyway. Candy asses." Although The Rock didn't come right out and say it was Vin Diesel, it was speculated to be. He also said, "When you watch this movie next April and it seems like I'm not acting in some of these scenes and my blood is legit boiling, you're right." He was, of course, referring to The Fate of the Furious, which was the 8th installment in the franchise. The Rock followed that up 2 days later in another now deleted Instagram post on August 10th, 2016, saying, "Family is going to have differences of opinions and fundamental core beliefs. To me, conflict can be a good thing when it's followed by great resolution. I was raised on healthy conflict and welcome it, and like any family, we get better from it." The following day on August 11th, 2016, Vin Diesel put up an Instagram post, which is still up and available. He talked about wrapping back-to-back films, his daughter learning a new word, happy, and ending the story with,
"I will tell you everything. Everything."
It's speculated that these defensive words seem to implicate himself as a so-called candy ass. A few days later, on August 19th, 2016, The Rock made an Instagram post relating to F8, calling nearly everyone out by name to thank them. However, Vin Diesel did not make the list, so more or less it was a snub. Then on April 7th, 2017, Vin Diesel alluded to the feud with The Rock without giving any specifics in an interview with USA Today. He said, "I don't think the world really realizes how close we are, in a weird way. I think some things may be blown out of proportion. I don't think that was his intention. I know he appreciates how much I work this franchise. In my house, he's Uncle Dwayne. I protect the franchise. I protect everybody, including Dwayne. I protected Dwayne more than he'll ever know, and it doesn't matter. He doesn't have to know, but he appreciates it. He knows it." Diesel continued and said, "Dwayne has only got one Vin in his life. Dwayne Johnson only has one big brother in this film world, and that's me. Always, always, always. I'm always rooting for Dwayne. I'm the first multicultural megastar in Hollywood. They didn't exist. To see another multicultural star come up is something I am very proud of. I'm always rooting Dwayne on." On a side note, I'd say Brandon Lee, son of legendary Bruce Lee, was poised to be the first multicultural megastar had tragedy not befallen him. Make sure to check out my Brandon Lee tribute, by the way, if you haven't seen it. I'll link the video in the description below. Also, while referring to himself in The Rock, Vin Diesel said, "It's not always easy being an alpha, and it's two alphas. Being an alpha is sometimes a pain in the butt." Two alphas in the same room, it kind of reminds me of the story YouTuber Tech Lead shared about him and his father.
So I'm living with my parents. If you don't know, they cook me food. And I told my dad that I wanted to be the head of the household. You see, basically, I'm an adult man. And as an adult man, I need to be the king of my kingdom. It's the way of the animal world, and it is the law of nature. You cannot fight it. We don't go around seeing two alpha males in one household. And well, we all know that I'm an alpha male. And so I got up from my PlayStation, walked over to my dad, and told him that he must submit to me and that I am now in control.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Okay, so going from April 7th USA Today interview with Vin Diesel, we move on to April 9th, 2017. With 6 days ago until the movie opened up to the public, The Rock told Entertainment Tonight that his beef with Vin Diesel was a matter of different philosophies. In 2018, in an interview with Rolling Stones, The Rock elaborated further. He said their beef came down to a disagreement about professionalism. The Rock said, "Vin and I had a few discussions, including an important face-to-face in my trailer, and what I came to realize is that we have a fundamental difference in philosophies on how we approach movie making and collaborating. It took me some time, but I'm grateful for the clarity, whether we work together again or not." He continued, "Right now I'm concentrating on making the spin-off as good as it can be. Hobbs and Shaw, co-starring Jason Statham, due next year," which it came out in 2019, by the way. "But I wish him," referring to Diesel, "all the best, and I harbor no ill will there, just because of the clarity we have." The Rock paused during the interview, considered what he said, then lets out a big slight laugh. "Actually, you can erase that last part about no ill will. We'll just keep it with the clarity. The Rock did not end up starring in Fast and the Furious 9, by the way. In fact, even though he and Diesel share scenes together in Part 8, it was edited in such a way where the two men did not actually shoot the scenes together, as they didn't want to be in the same room as each other. Apparently, Vin has been having problems with The Rock because The Rock kept showing up late for production, sometimes not showing up at all and delaying the production. But it's also been said that Diesel was constantly late, acted like a diva, and held up production because of his ego that got in the way of producing the movie.
All for the glorification of your massive ego.
It really just comes down to he said, and it's really hard to say what actually happened, and I doubt either man was entirely in the right. Viking Samurai is clearly not playing favorites here. And finally, in 2019, after the success of Hobbs and Shaw, Vin Diesel congratulated The Rock on the success of that film as well as his marriage.
Real shout out to Dwayne and Jason, and by the way, congratulations on your wedding, Dwayne. Lauren's a special girl and you have a beautiful family.
The Rock would reciprocate shortly thereafter, and the proverbial hatchet would seemingly be buried.
But also, lastly, but not least, I want to thank Brother Vin. Saw your post, and I appreciate it. Lauren and I appreciate the wedding. Congratulations. We send love right back to you and Paloma. It was a very classy post, and I appreciate it, brother.
When their feud was coming to a boil, Esquire magazine on their website conducted a poll. Nearly 9 out of 10 people picked The Rock to win the fight, which isn't necessarily surprising because I figure the average guy would most likely pick the bigger guy as the winner in a fight. Now, obviously a more educated audience will realize that there's so much more to a fight than just pure raw size. So let's break down the hypothetical fight. We'll start with the tale of the tape. As far as age goes, neither man is a spring chicken, but they're still in really good shape physically. You'd have to give the advantage to The Rock though. Born May 2nd, 1972, that would make him 48 years old, while Vin Diesel was born on July 18th, 1967, making him 53 years old as of the time of this video. As far as height goes, The Rock is 6'5", while Vin Diesel is likely just shy of 6 foot even. So that's a good 5 or 6 inch advantage in The Rock's favor. It's safe to assume that he'd have the reach advantage as well, though I think Vin Diesel would have the advantage as far as striking goes, which I'll explain later. As far as weight goes, obviously The Rock has the advantage here, 260 pounds versus Vin Diesel's 225 pounds, and that's a solid weight advantage for The Rock. It's good weight, muscle weight. The downside is that amount of muscle would negatively affect his cardio. Watching training footage from each man, it's no surprise that The Rock is stronger than Vin Diesel. He does outweigh him by nearly 40 pounds after all, is actually quite leaner as well. This of course leads to the next obvious question, is either man natural? And this is an important point to bring up when talking about a fight, as performance enhancing drugs would obviously give someone an advantage, as the key words are performance enhancing. Based on what I've seen, I'd say Vin Diesel has been a lifetime natty. He's got a great solid build, never had crazy size, never had crazy definition, just a nice, healthy looking athletic body fat percentage with extra muscle. There are various websites out there that take a deep dive on the whole natty or not thing, such as muscleandbrawn.com. Of course, none of these sites have definitive proof, rather they just look at evidence and speculate. The consensus for Diesel is that it seems that he has not used steroids. However, it's questionable about whether or not he used HGH, human growth hormone, as he at times seems to have that bloated extended gut. As far as The Rock goes, he kind of's been all over the place with his physique. He's obviously a big guy in general. In his earlier days, he usually carried a pretty high body fat percentage. Went to his leaner, more athletic phase, which is when I used to see him train at the 24 Hour Fitness in Simi Valley, California, by the way. That was before he moved to Florida, and it was there where he put on a lot more muscular size and got noticeably leaner and just looked harder. So based on his transformation of getting noticeably bigger and leaner as he aged, and on the fact that he openly admitted to using steroids in the past when he was a teenager, though he said he tried it, that he and his buddies tried it back in the day when he was 18 or 19. But he claims to have never touched them since. The reason behind this is either 1, because it's true, he hasn't used steroids since his teen years, or 2, it's a lie, possibly because he doesn't want to set a bad example to kids across the world. Some may point out the fact that The Rock doesn't have that famous HGH gut, where your belly starts protruding. However, many guys do take HGH without ever developing this pregnant look because they don't administer it with insulin. Overall, I'd like to give The Rock the benefit of the doubt, but I also don't want to be naive. Based on what I see, I'd say what makes the most sense would be his involvement with the Life Extension Clinic, where he would get legally prescribed doctor-supervised TRT and growth hormone. Couple that with his hardcore consistent training routine and a solid diet, and of course his genetics, and voila, that's how I think The Rock was formed. In general, I don't really care if someone uses PEDs unless they knowingly lie about it in order to deceive the public, but the reason I bring it up in this video is because it does factor into the question of who'd win in a fight between Vin Diesel and The Rock, because obviously TRT or any other PED for that matter would give someone an advantage. Just look at TRT Vitor Belfort compared to post-TRT Vitor for an example. So on paper, going by the tell of the tape, you'd have to give it to The Rock, which is why I'm not surprised that Esquire magazine poll was heavily skewed towards him winning the fight. He's got the age, size, and strength advantage, but let's go deeper, much deeper than what's on the surface and try to figure out who'd actually win the fight. Let's talk about attitude.
What's that? I'll kill you with my teacup.
Both men are alpha males, but I'm going to give the edge to Vin Diesel here. Vin Diesel truly believes he can win. In fact, when he found out ex-UFC welterweight champ Tyron Woodley commented that he thought The Rock would win in a fight against Diesel, Diesel personally confronted Woodley at the premiere for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Not in a violent way, but to set the record straight and say he'd, quote, flex on The Rock.
Yeah, Vin Diesel yelled at me yesterday at the party because he said, I said a fight versus him and The Rock, I gave it to The Rock. Right. So he pulled up on me. You know, did? Yeah, not in a violent way, but he said, come on, man. Too, wasn't it? Come on, man, I'll flex on The Rock.
But wait, he's wrong, though. The Rock would beat him down in a fight.
He would kill him. He said he'll flex on The Rock.
Really?
Now, obviously, attitude and belief is not enough. Real skills would need to be involved, so let's look at the background of each man. The Rock is super athletic. He received several offers from Division I collegiate football programs and had a full scholarship at the University of Miami, where he mostly played defensive tackle. Post-college, he briefly signed with the Calgary Stampeders of the Canadian Football League, but was cut 2 months into the season. After his football career ended, The Rock decided to follow in his father's footsteps and pursue a career as a professional wrestler. That obviously proved to be very successful for him. Now, in general, among several wrestling fans, the consensus seems to be, as far as technicals go, The Rock isn't the best wrestler, but rather what he owes most of his success to, which also helped him in the movie world, is that he's a much better sports entertainer than wrestler. But of course, we're talking about fake fighting, so without a willing, cooperating opponent, those technical professional wrestling skills may not help that much anyway in a real fight. Just take a look at how awful CM Punk did in the UFC as an example. Even though professional wrestling is more or less fake, you still have to take a great deal of punishment, so The Rock would score some points for toughness for not only professional wrestling, but also football. Another benefit of professional wrestling is that you'd still have to be able to physically move pretty well. So even if you don't have the technical skills of a real fighter, if you take an athletic guy and a guy who's not very athletic, and if both men do not have any skills as far as fighting goes, you'd have to give the edge to the athletic guy, as he'll at least have an endurance and strength advantage over the non-athletic guy. But in Vin Diesel's case, Vin Diesel is clearly athletic himself. Vin Diesel actually has a background as a breakdancer, and even now he's still got the moves. Dancing is a pretty endurance-heavy activity, and just with his smaller size in general, we're going to give the endurance edge to Vin Diesel as well as speed. Also, because of the dancing, we'll give him the footwork advantage as well. If you don't think dancing is a valuable skill to have as a fighter, look no further than middleweight UFC champ Israel Adesanya and Bellator welterweight staple Michael Venom Page. And for fun, let's not forget one of our favorites on this channel, Jean-Claude Van Damme. We should also bring up Vin Diesel's background as a bouncer. He spent his teenage years in New York City and ended up becoming a club bouncer at 17 at a trendy nightclub such as The Tunnel, which is where he adopted his alias, by the way. His manager said he would come in on his nights off and dance by himself. The name Vin Diesel was in reference to the fuel for his non-stop energy. Since he was a bouncer in New York City, he was likely involved in plenty of scuffles, which would have gave him some real-world experience. He had to learn to expect the unexpected. As far as each man's interest in mixed martial arts, The Rock has stated that had the UFC been as popular now or even in 2010 when he did this interview, he'd likely have went that direction over pro wrestling.
I love this sport and the thought about competing in an octagon is something that I would have loved to have done.
He's also stated on Twitter that his goal would have been to use Greg Jackson MMA as his coach and devote 2 full years of training there before taking his first bout. As far as Vin Diesel goes, he's trained with martial arts great Tony Jaa for Fast and Furious 7 back in 2013. Tony Jaa said Vin Diesel picked things up really quickly. Overall, the youth, size, strength all go to The Rock, while Diesel has the edge as far as endurance, speed, footwork, and background from his days as a bouncer and also having trained with Tony Jaa. As far as grappling goes, The Rock has the edge due to his raw power and size, plus I'm sure he could utilize something from his pro wrestling days, at least in order to control Diesel. In a sanctioned bout, the way I see him winning would be to take Vin Diesel down and then finish him off with ground and pound. As far as Vin Diesel goes, I'll give him the edge for striking. Because of his endurance, the footwork, the skills he's learned from Tony Jaa would all help. The way I see him winning the fight would be in the later rounds. As The Rock tires out, Vin could finish him off or at least get a win by decision. If it were an actual street fight where there's no honor and dirty fighting takes place, The Rock's size won't give him a whole lot of advantage, and I see Diesel using his background as a balancer while also channeling his inner fury on Riddick in order to edge out The Rock.
It's an animal thing.
Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Who'd win in a fight between The Rock and Vin Diesel and why?